You have to excuse me because I watched The Wolf of Wall Street yesterday, so if I go over the top, if I'm overzealous and I lose the harmony of the meeting, that's my excuse why. Evening, fellow Toastmasters. My name is Max, and today I'm going to be talking about my research that I did into becoming a leader, because again, never really looked it up, haven't really thought about it, and this has really focused me. So the first thing I did is there was this online Toastmasters thing that asked you loads of questions about what kind of leader you are, and then at the end there were 8 different types of leaders that you could be. And I had the exact same score on 4 of those 8, which really didn't answer a lot of questions for me. So I went through those 4 and picked out the one I thought sounded more like how I feel. And coincidentally, the first thing I have written down here is team harmony, because I am very much in the advocacy of communication, and I learned this through my job. Talking to people is the first thing I do. When I've done university projects where I've led the project, the first thing I've said to everyone is we're setting up group meetings and we're talking on Facebook, I'm setting up all these chats and everything, and I really thought that spoke to me, as well as having lots of emotion and personal relationships. But the one thing I always struggled with was feedback, because I often felt I couldn't quite tell people exactly what I thought. I felt, oh, they've put in such a good effort, how could I say the bad things that they did? And I felt I was too kind sometimes and skirted around the edges of exactly what I meant. Next, there was also something called the Myers-Briggs test, which is a 16 personalities test you can do online. And I thought that would be quite fun to do. I remember doing it in college, we were forced to do it at university, and I revisited it again for this, and my personality type is the protagonist, which is rather arrogant and full of myself, but I quite like being able to say that. I was originally going to call this the protagonist of my own story, but it says that I radiate authenticity, concern, and I'm unafraid to stand up and speak for what I believe in. But again, this quite also said that the protagonist, because they get so emotionally involved in everyone else, they sometimes take on other people's problems as their own. And I've quite noticed that in some of my work where I'm trying to help everyone else and I struggle to lead. I'm trying to help people do all of their little jobs, micromanage, but I can't sometimes just step back and look and be like, I trust you to do your job. And I thought that was quite interesting. So when I'm producing or leading new projects, I'm definitely going to try and trust people more from this test. And now the other thing, I thought it all rubs off on you from the leaders you've had in your past. So I wanted to go through 4 leaders I've had in my life quite recently, and what I've learned from them and what I've observed since taking up this idea. Now the first one was my first manager at McDonald's, which was called Kevin, and it was his kindness and compassion. Originally he was the little guy too, he just worked on tills like I did, so he had a great understanding of what it was like to do the small, dirty work. So whenever I made a mistake or needed to ask questions, I always felt really comfortable. So now, no matter how much knowledge I feel like I gain, I still want to look at anyone who's just starting on their journey. And similar with Toastmasters, when I first came here, and then when I talk to new people who are just coming here, I remember and know what it feels like to be that first person, and he taught me that. The next was my dad. He's extremely entrepreneurial. Every time I tell him an idea, his first thought is, Max, how can you monetize this? And that rubbed off. I started my own little murder mystery company, and I loved it. I enjoyed it thoroughly. It was a way to keep doing what I was enjoying, but actually monetize it and earn from it. And my dad likes to dictate his work. He is a very much top of he's like a director or a manager. He likes to think of the ideas, and he's an incredibly smart man, but if you task him with actually doing the work, he doesn't like to do the dirty work. And that reminded me back to the positives of Kevin. And we are working together on that. And I'm currently working for him, being his little minion, and he quite likes that. Next was my producing at my university projects. So when I had to produce a project, I had to organise all the locations, cast sheets, I had to get everything booked, kit, actors, everything, and I loved it. And whilst I stressed about the job, I really enjoyed it. And then when it came to the day of filming, yes, I'm the producer, but oh no, there's someone else here, the director. I have no control anymore, and I have to let them do the work. We were filming outside and it was freezing cold, and we were out of milk for our tea. So someone had to go off to the shop to buy tea. Producer has nothing to do, off you go. And I'm thinking as I'm walking to the shop, this is out of my hands. I've organised all these locations, I've got all of these actors together, but it's completely out of my hands. It all could be going wrong right now. And then I remembered to calm myself and trust in my director, and everything went swimmingly. And I learned that through that project. And lastly, was going back to what I mentioned in my warm-up, which was my producer at work, Casey. His level of communication was something I didn't mention above his calmness, and he is a strong communicator because of the way he talks to the presenters. You need to be snappy and quick, using very short statements, because it's within the radio industry. You have to be fast because everything's happening live. And he's taught me to be extremely concise and extremely calm. As I mentioned before, the whole station could be falling apart, but at the end of the day, he keeps his cool, and I admire that level of calmness. So again, when I came through new, I felt I was in very good hands. And the last one was coming here to Toastmasters. We've heard a few times tonight people have dropped that they run their own businesses, and I admire that. My murder mystery one was very tiny, and I admire anyone who's got quite a large business on the go, and hearing people talk about their personal projects has always inspired me and made me want to step up as a leader, because they're leading within their craft. And to finish up, as Sylvia said, I am doing persuasive influence, and so I'd like to persuade all of you in this last little moment to research this for yourself. And going back to that 16 personalities test, if you type 16 personalities tests in on the internet and go to Myers-Briggs and you take the test, when you read the result, you will feel like you are reading your autobiography. It is that accurate. I would encourage you all to do it. I've been forced to do it twice in my life now, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you will take it up and find your own leadership styles. Thank you.